Hi, my name is Jocelyn Neal, and this video is about part writing for the AP Music Theory exam. Before we begin, I recommend you go to the link below this video and print out the worksheet we will be using today so that you can not just follow along, but actually do the work with me. This is the chord chart video. So what we're going to do today is fill out a chart that is a review process of the harmonic language in any given key that we might encounter on the AP Music Theory exam. This process is a great way to increase our fluency with harmonic language, Roman numerals, chord voicings, and figured bass. We're going to start today by filling out a chord chart for the key of A major together. So once you have your template, we're simply going to start by labeling the key that we're going to work in. And again, we'll do A major today. We're going to fill in that key signature. In this case, it's 3 sharps, F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. And then we're going to go ahead and spell each triad and 7th chord that is part of our core diatonic harmonic language here. We'll start with our tonic triad, A, C sharp, E. And we're going to write the letter names down below as well so we have 2 visual references. Our minor 2 chord is B, D, F sharp. And we'll list that below the staff as well. We're going to include the 7th chords we encounter most frequently. This is our 2-7 chord. It's a minor, minor 7th chord. B, D, F sharp, A. And our 3 chord, even though we don't use it very often, C sharp, E, G sharp. Our subdominant triad is major, D, F sharp, A. Our dominant triad, E, G sharp, and B. And our dominant 7th chord, which is a major minor 7th chord, that's the dominant quality, E, G sharp, B, and D. Our minor 6th chord, F sharp, A, C sharp. Our diminished triad built on scale degree 7, G sharp, B, D. And our half diminished 7th chord, G sharp, B, D, F sharp. Now, where I've listed the letter names, I'm going to increase my visual information here by marking all of the leading tones that occur in dominant function chords. I'm going to find that 5 chord and circle its 3rd, which is G sharp, the leading tone. I'm going to find that G sharp in my dominant 7th chord. I'm going to find that G sharp in my 7 diminished triad, and that G sharp in my half diminished 7th chord as well. I'm going to grab a different colored pencil and mark the chordal 7ths, so on this chart I can visually keep track of those as well. The 7th in my 2-7 chord, the 7th in my dominant 7th chord, and the 7th in my 7 half diminished 7 chord. And now we're going to do the same process for the relative minor. This is the other key that has the same key signature of 3 sharps. The relative minor of A major is F sharp minor. Fill in that key signature, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp. And we're going to spell our chords in our minor key. Our tonic triad in the key of F sharp minor is F sharp, A, C sharp. Our 2 chord, which is diminished in quality, is G sharp, B, D. Our 2-7 chord is a half diminished 7th chord. It's 2 half diminished 7, G sharp, B, D, F sharp. That 3 chord is one we don't use very often, but we'll spell it anyway, A, C sharp, E. The 4 chord is B, D, F sharp. We know that in tonal music, we use the major triad for our 5 chord, even in a minor key. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that with my accidental. The 5 chord is C sharp, E sharp, G sharp. I'll spell my 5-7 chord, C sharp, E sharp, G sharp, B. Just make that a little bit neater there. My sixth chord is a major triad. That sixth chord in the key of F sharp minor is D, F sharp, A. I'm going to list the diatonic seventh chord, even though we really don't use this much in AP music theory. This is the chord spelled on the natural scale degree 7, E, G sharp, B, but I'm going to put that in parentheses because it's just not part of our harmonic language in most simple tonal settings. And instead, I'm going to list the 7 diminished triad we do use, which is built on the leading tone, E sharp, G sharp, B. It's a diminished triad. And I'm going to list the fully diminished seventh chord we use as well, which is E sharp, G sharp, B, and D. I'm going to grab my colored pencils now, repeat that procedure. I'm going to find my leading tones in dominant chords. That's going to be the E sharp in my 5 chord, the E sharp in my 5/7 chord, the E sharp in my 7 diminished triad, and the E sharp in my 7 diminished 7th chord. And I'll grab another colored pencil and circle my chordal sevenths so I can keep track of those as well. That's in my 2 half diminished 7th chord, my 5/7 chord, and my 7 diminished 7th chord. Now there's one more piece of information on this chart that I like to keep track of. I'm going to file this in my notebook under the key of A major and F sharp minor, or 3 sharps. And then you'll notice that down at the bottom of this page, I have a figured bass chart. The figured bass notation here lists the shorthand symbols across the bottom and the full figured bass notation that is implied by those shorthand symbols. So the things I'll actually see in my music are nothing, a 6, a 6/4, a 7, 6/5, 4/3, or 4/2. And when I see those, I know that the actual notation is what's above it. Now I'm going to start to mark which of those intervals above the bass is the root of my chord. And you'll notice that in my triads, my root position triad, it's going to be the bass note. In my first inversion triad, it's going to be the note a 6th above the bass. So I just put a little R next to that 6. In my second inversion triad, it's going to be the 4th above the bass. So I put a little R for root next to that 4. And then in my 7th chords, in my root position 7th chord, it's going to be the bass note. In my first inversion 7th chord, it's going to be the 6th above the bass. In my second inversion 7th chord, it's going to be the 4th above the bass. And in my third inversion 7th chord, it's going to be the 2nd above the bass. So this figured bass chart is going to be a useful reference for me when I'm doing my part writing. So now what we're going to do is just one more quick chord chart together. This time we'll do one for the key of A flat major and its relative minor, which is F minor. So we're going to be working with 4 flats. And I know that some of you might be wondering, gosh, can't I just print these charts out already finished? And I just want to promise you that the act of making them is one of the best ways to review this material and to become more fluent with it. So since that's going to benefit you in all aspects of your part writing, it is well worth the time it takes to do one. It's less than 5 minutes to do a complete chord chart. And again, it's just a terrific review. So here we go for A flat major. I'm going to list my key signature here of 4 flats, B flat, E flat, A flat, and D flat. And I'm going to start spelling and labeling my chords. And again, as you're filling out your chart, I recommend you speak these chord names, these letter names out loud. That's going to build that fluency and just help you with more efficient part writing later. Grab those colored pencils because visually we want to keep track of any chord member that's going to require careful part writing attention. That includes our leading tone, which I'm marking here in red in our dominant function chords. Now you know that scale degree 7, that leading tone also shows up in the 3 chord. I'm not circling it here because it doesn't carry leading tone function in every specific use in a 3 chord. If we check the bottom of the page, we're going to find that figured bass chart again. Remember that the numbers under the line are the figured bass symbols we see regularly in musical notation, and the numbers above the line are the complete intervals above the bass that those figured bass symbols represent. I'm simply going to put a small r next to the interval above the bass where the root of the chord is found, and I'll talk through those one more time. For our root position triad, it's the bass note. For our first inversion triad, it's the sixth above the bass. For our second inversion triad, it's the fourth above the bass. For our root position seventh chord, it's the bass note. For our first inversion seventh chord, it's the sixth above the bass. For our second inversion seventh chord, it's the fourth above the bass. And for our third inversion seventh chord, it's the second above the bass. That's the note with the little r that is the root of the chord. So that's how to create a chord chart. And again, I recommend you print out enough of those for every key you could possibly want to have in your notebooks. 15 copies if you're going to do all of the sharps, all the flats, and of course, C major and A minor. Thanks very much for watching. Have a great day.